Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Thursday, September 25th. It's Alexis Garcia here, and stocks extended their slide today but held ground at some key areas. That trading action coming in the wake of some better than expected economic data, clouding the picture for future Fed rate cuts. And here with me to break down everything you need to know about today's trading action, well, it's better than expected. IBD news editor Ed Carson making his appearance once again. Ed, what's on tap for us today?
Yeah, I just have to keep those expectations low. I want to take a look at MP Materials, Futu Holdings, and Palantir.
All right, well, we'll get to those stocks first, but let's check in on the major indexes and see how they finished. The S&P 500 down 0.5% today. The Dow down about 0.4%. The Nasdaq finishing the day down 0.5% as well, and small caps down over 1% today. So, Ed, as I get the screen share up, we've seen 3 straight days of declines here. I think leaving some investors wondering if there's a bigger pullback coming. So, what are your thoughts on the overall market?
Yeah, it's a little tricky right now. I mean, on the one hand, you can see all the major indexes found support at the 21-day line, or either coming right down to it or almost to it, bouncing off of that. Generally closing near session highs, but not at the absolute highs. On the other hand, the day before, they were all finding support at the 10-day line. So just because you find support at a level on one day doesn't mean it will continue. I mean, ultimately, in a week or two, it'll be obvious. Oh, this was the bottom. We went surging high, or oh, this was just a blip. Look, we went down to 6,000 on the S&P. But you have to deal with what's going on right now. Right now, the market is still pulling back. At the same time, bulls are showing support. It's a very mixed message, and so it's not at all clear what may be obvious later, and what you might make decisions that work out great. You might make decisions you go, "Gosh, I wish I hadn't done that," but you have to just ultimately follow your rules, not necessarily expecting to be 100% right, but that you are making the generally right decisions over the long term.
So, everything looking, as Mike Webster would say, normal and natural to you here so far with
Yeah,
the
normal
market?
and natural. I mean, the thing is, some of the growth leaders, some of them were really extended, and some of them came off, even they often found support. So it is normal and natural. The problem is, it's sort of like it's normal for there to be heavy snow in the winter, and I mean, it's like there's been heavy rains in the spring. It's like normal doesn't mean it's like something that you really want to be part of, or that you can't at least be acknowledged there's issues. It is normal right now. It could be worse. Like if it falls through the 21-day line, you could see a lot more damage to charts. If and again it went through the 50-day line, that would be terrible. But right now, this is fine. So it's a delicate balance about not being too aggressive, not being too passive. These are tricky because it's not clear what the market is doing right now.
Let's check in on the NASDAQ composite, Ed. This one, kind of the same idea here, coming off intraday lows, but looks like just below this 10-day moving average.
Yeah, and so the same kind of thing here. Didn't quite get to the 21-day line. I think maybe taking a look at the 5-minute chart just to show how that came well, sold off right at the open, bottomed very quickly, came back, and for a while there, it looked like, hey, we're going to go positive. This is going to be the greatest day ever, and then it's just like, sort of slid back down, almost in lows, rallied again. So again, it's not clear what's going on. It's nice that the bulls a couple of times showed support. They came in there, but it's not like they, you know, showed their dominance once again over the market either. It's still a little bit of a roller coaster day today.
And let's just quickly check in on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I'll switch back to the daily here. Thoughts on this, Ed? Again, flirting with this 21-day line, but finishing slightly off those lows.
Yeah, a little bit off lows. The Dow and the Russell, I think, didn't finish closer to their intraday lows than the Nasdaq and S&P. So that isn't great, but they're still above those levels. The Russell is more swings up more up and down. So while it had the bigger loss, that's not really that surprising either. Its recent uptrend continues, for the Russell.
And let's check on RSP because that has been kind of a concern for us through this rally here. Today, down more than 0.8%, testing this 50-day line. So tell me your thoughts on this and what it's saying about market breadth.
A few things. One is that while yes, we were paying attention to some real high flyers, they had some sell-offs and some bounce and everything. Fact is, you strip out some of the stuff, and this is like sort of like non-tech mega cap, real thing. And so it's just not the same situations. And it's down testing the 50-day line. And really, part of it's not so much because part of it's because since late August, this really even before today, it hadn't really gone anywhere from late August. When it hit like one, yeah, right there, it's basically flat, which is fine. But if you go back to the S&P 500, especially from early September, the S&P, that was taken off. That was taking off from, it sort of tested there, but from there was a real nice rally. RSP didn't really have it. So it didn't really have any cushion over the 50-day line. It wasn't like RSP's drop was that terrible. Yeah, it was worse than the S&P, but the real thing is that it didn't have the cushion, in that respect. So that's all. And then you can see that the RS line has been lagging consistently, which isn't that much of a shock, but you'd like it to hold the 50-day line.
And let's look at QQEW. That's the NASDAQ 100 equal weighted index. Again, this one clawing back some losses today, but down for the day, 0.6% at that 10-day moving average.
Yeah, this one actually looks pretty good. I mean, it didn't have the big advance, maybe others, and because it was lagging in below the 50-day line for a while. But since those last few weeks, it's doing pretty well. It really was almost at highs until, as of yesterday. So this one was sort of in line. This definitely looks better than RSP, which is a switch from 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And let's take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield. Ed, we had some economic data come in today, maybe suggesting or complicating the picture for rate cuts here. And this up 0.6% today, but we've seen the Treasury yield spiking back up here, or at least inching back up near the 4.2 level, Ed. So thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, so far it hasn't really hit the market. I don't think this really had much impact on things, but yeah, stronger than expected. A lot of economic reports are stronger, and really the trend since the Fed cut rates has been stronger than expected data, and today was especially so. And that's what we had in late 2024, and 10 Treasury yields surged on that. They also surged on Trump's election and some other things, but it wasn't a guarantee. Fed cutting rates when again, if the economy is strong and inflation's still elevated, cutting rates doesn't mean that long-term rates will fall, especially given how much they had fallen in anticipation of Fed rate cuts. So tomorrow will be important. We've got the Fed's favorite inflation report. I don't think people thought it was going to be that important because, again, we have so much time before another rate cut. But now it's going to be like, well, with this other economic data, I mean, the inflation figures, if they show any kind of getting hot, it's just like, well, what are we doing here cutting rates? If the economy is still in pretty good shape and the inflation's high, I mean, that could change the calculus and they might slow down like the Fed did in late last year.
All right. Well, let's take a look at some sector ETFs. We were talking about growth stocks. Let's check in on the IBD 50 ETF. That's FFTY. This one down 1.2% today, again, dipping below that 21-day line, but clawing its way back above. So, again, Ed, and we talked about a lot of these names have been extended. Possibly waiting for a pullback here. So, thoughts here on the chart action?
Yeah, this is really shows you can, if you wanted to read it as, negative, it's like, well, look, we've fallen pretty significantly for 3 straight days. If you want to look at it positively, hey, we had a nice bounce today. So again, it really just depends what comes next. I mean, it's like, if we fall 2% tomorrow, will anybody be looking, yeah, don't you remember that moment in Thursday morning when we bounced? It's like, who cares at that point? I mean, but so it really does come to what happens next. You can read it either way. There are some things that are setting up, and some of the stocks we'll look at, they're setting up. Like, well, a couple of them are setting up, but it doesn't necessarily mean you could easily see them looking quite much weaker with a little bit more weakness in the market.
All right, let's take a look at chips. This is SMH, the Van Eck Semiconductor ETF. This one, pretty much flat for the day, but really pairing those losses here, Ed, and flirted with the 10-day line. But thoughts here with chips?
Yeah, SMH looks really good. Let's be like, that one looks really good. I mean, that's right at highs. There's, there you could have seen, if you're going to talk about, it also shows you, puts in perspective, yes, some really extended stocks have come back down, but it wasn't like there's a wholesale, I hate growth stocks. I hate, stocks that are growing well that may have been on advances, because it's not like this was way above the 10-day line. I mean, most of the chips names weren't crazy extended. Maybe one or two were getting somewhat extended, and some of those have gotten hit, and that's fine. But chips overall, not crazy extended. The thesis is still there, which is definitely positive for the whole rally.
And let's look at IGV. That's the software ETF. This one down 1.2% today, finishing below the 10-day line.
Yeah, a little bit more weakness here. Now, some of that's Oracle, which had a big move, and there, and now some DEX, some Palantir, which we'll look at. It's actually the number one component, and that was basically flat, and which we'll look at. But so this is fine as well. I mean, seems normal. Yes, if it starts breaking the 21-day or certainly the 50-day line, you get worried, but it hasn't done that yet. So it's something to bear watching, but is normal for now.
And I think that you had one more here, Ed, that did you want me to take a look at
Yeah,
before we?
NLR.
All right. All right, that's uranium and nuclear. This one up 0.9% today, Ed. And again, a nice reversal here after dipping below this 10-day line.
Yeah, I mean, there were some real high flyers that did come off quite a bit, but came off lows, and others that were more, uranium plays, they rebounded, and some of it on news, some of it just on general positive. So this shows you this area again came to the 10-day line, found support. This is one of the more aggressive areas of the market, and this overall did pretty well, despite definitely some divergent trends today. But this was showed healthy performance overall.
All right, well, let's take a look at some individual stocks. Let's check with MP Materials. This is a rare earth mining operation here, up 8.3% today. Ed, we also see this blue dot here on the RS line, which is a great sign as it's attempting to break out here. But thoughts here on the chart?
Yeah, this just to first full disclosure, I do own a position in this, but this was one of the more impressive rebounds, despite me talking in my book. It rebounded off the 50 day, 21-day line, basically close to the 50-day line. Really strong reversal. I think this was one of the first ones to go. I guess there was a report that maybe the Trump administration is looking to maybe have more stakes in rare earth companies. Now, that isn't necessarily a positive for MP Materials because it's sort of like, well, I thought maybe it wasn't MP Materials special. I mean, they got this big surge because the federal government was investing in them, giving them a price floor. But if you do that for others, you could spin that as negatively. I don't know yet. I just saw that, but that seemed to be a catalyst. Bounced off of there. I suppose if you bought it above Wednesday's high, you could have bought off of that. I did not. I did not do anything else. I was think, but that was actionable. It's close to this flat place buy point. Yeah, the blue dot showing that relative strength. A lot of growth here with the price floor that's very high. That's just bodes well, sort of almost like a guarantee. If as long as they can produce the stuff, they've got it should be profitable. So strong performance here.
And that 8250 is the traditional buy point on this one. Let's head on over to Futu. That's a Chinese brokerage platform, if I'm correct. This one up 1.5% today. And again, testing this 21-day line, but finding some strength here at finishing towards the middle of that trading range.
Yeah, and a lot of Chinese stocks have had a pretty decent week. And yesterday it made a big move above the 50-day line, but it didn't quite, and came up to a trend line, came up to the 21-day, didn't cross it. But I think today it has decisively, and it's still relatively close to the 50-day line. So this was sort of the first test of the 50-day, 10-week line since the breakout way back in May, and it made a big run from there. So you could buy it off of that. Or you could wait to see if this could be, or you could sort of treat it like an early entry too to what could be an emerging base. But that's often what happens when you pull back to the 10-week line. It offers an opportunity, and then the base forms. Not always. So yeah, this one's very volatile. I think you would want to use maybe the lows from a couple of days ago is definitely your stop loss, and that would be probably at the 8% level too. That would be something you definitely, because they'd be decisively below the 50-day line. So that would definitely tell you something's wrong. But nice action here. And I think something else that's nice, a lot of AI stocks are still the leaders. It's nice to find a stock that isn't so exposed directly to AI that has strong growth. You're not going to some defensive name. This is a growth stock. Doesn't mean it's safe by any means, but it doesn't mean that, like, if the AI stocks all tumble, this isn't necessarily going to lead the decline.
All right, let's head on over to Palantir. Ed, you mentioned this when we were talking about software. This one down about 0.3% today, but we're on the daily. We can probably see it better on the weekly here. Looking like maybe forming a handle here on this cut base, Ed. So, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, and that's why it's one reason this could be constructive because I mean, at least at the intraday lows, there's a little bit of something, a little bit of a shakeout. Again, this is not that much. It could even take a little bit more. Even if it came down toward a rising 21-day line, that would still be fine, especially because the 21-day line is going to rise quite a bit. Yeah, there was sort of an early entry last week when it punched higher above sort of a short-term level, another sort of too short handle, but this is offering another opportunity. This never really fell that much again, but this wasn't that extended. Again, when you're seeing that, like with the SMH chip and this, these are huge winners, but they weren't crazy extended. So the fact that they weren't really hammered shows you that it was more like, whoa, we just need to just like just slow down a little bit. Some of these crazy stocks, not necessarily there's some kind of redirection. So it's really good to see because this, Palantir is probably the stock. It was the top performer last year in the S&P 500. If it's not number one, it is very close this year as well. So this one, if it goes above this week's highs, I think would definitely be actionable. It'd be great if it could form a real handle though, in the first. But yeah, a lot to like still, obviously, with Palantir.
All right, Ed. Well, thank you so much for your insights today. And that wraps it up for this edition of Stock Market Today. You can catch more market analysis starting tomorrow morning with IBD Live. You can head on over to investors.com/IBD Live for all the details there. We talked a little bit about today about, what to look for next. And I'm sure Justin Nielsen and Mike Webster will have a great wrap up for you for tomorrow's edition of Stock Market Today, looking at the week and preparing for the week ahead. So, again, be sure to tune in tomorrow after the close. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.